welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Not often, but when we do, we kind of jump up and down, and then yet at the same time, buckle our seatbelts when Bob Just is in the house. He's here from New York. He's back into the state here for a little bit. Always a joy to have him. He's in the studio. Bob is a political commentator, founder of Concerned Families. He's a writer for Fox News, American Thinker, WorldNet Daily. He leaps tall buildings, he outruns locomotives, and he does have a website that's very confusing, bobjust.com.
Yeah, simple
There's
enough.
a picture of the landing page. Those pictures on that landing page have been there 33 years now.
Going on 34.
Going on 34. Good to see you, Bob. How are you?
Good to see you, Perry.
A couple quick questions before we get the ball rolling.
Yes, sir.
Here. We're watching something unfold with Dr. Fauci before this Senate hearing. He's declaring the fifth across the line.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the Senate questioning is going to go on because they want to get on the record what they have found, which is in contrast to his testimony. Do you know, from your experience, President Biden gave him a blanket immunity. Some say that that cannot hold when it comes to perjury. Do you know?
Well, I know for sure that it doesn't hold for perjury after the pardon, which is why they're trying to get his comments on the record. They're trying to catch him at perjury after the pardon.
So they're going to be able to prove perjury with him still declaring the fifth, because all they have to do is ask the question, even though he's not going to answer it. But in the question will be his testimony of what he said versus what's in his diary. Isn't that? You
know, we're dealing with fine points of law. The fifth, when he takes the fifth, that is the two things they do is they take it in a situation like this, is they say, I don't know, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Or they take the fifth. And if they take the fifth, you're talking about fine points of law. And I'm not a lawyer.
Okay. You play one.
They are, yeah. I never have played one on TV, as a matter of fact. But no, seriously, the issue at hand is the outrageous way he handled the situation. All our kids have been vaccinated. Most of them have been vaccinated. It was never necessary. So many things happened. You know, millions of people died across the globe. The whole issue of creating a dangerous, virus in China when we had decided not to do that. And then the game playing that went on behind the scene, the accusations to people who were trying to blow the whistle against him. It was really horrible what he did. I mean, monstrous. Is not too wild a word.
No, it is.
And I hope they catch him on something. You know, even at his age, he should pay some price.
Well, I think what we're saying here is we all now see and know what he did was wrong. And the question is there a consequence when his wrong actions were intentional?
Yeah, and what frustrates many people, this goes to a larger problem in the country. What frustrates many people is they see people in the leadership ranks, can call them elite, whatever word you want to apply, the ruling class.
Right.
They see people do egregious things, and
nothing happens.
Nothing happens. There's never any price to pay, and that's very frustrating to people. Anyway, and Fauci is another example of that. I think they're trying to change that with him.
Okay. I want you to step back if you can. I know you always come in. You got notes. You're a former radio talk show host.
Yeah, podcaster soon.
Yeah, and you are an engineer's nightmare to manage because you don't know what brakes are. Okay.
I get on a roll.
Yeah,
right?
I've had you on the show enough that I have to stop you mid-sentence. Hey, sorry, the clock says this. Anyway, yeah. I'm making fun of you.
No, I know.
The point being, so let's step back. What do you think is the state of America today?
Distrust. And I think that, and I've been speaking to people, I live now in Manhattan, where I grew up. I lived for 23, 25, long time in Grants Pass, 23 years. And I talk to a lot of people, both in New York and here, and people are just wanting to feel trust again. And a lot of that has to do with the undermining of the left, including the culture. I mean, a lot of we've talked about these things for 20 years plus, but I think that a wonderful column was written, The Death of History, by Niall Ferguson. I recommend everyone read it. And what he's talking about is historians, good historians like Niall Ferguson, famous historian, Victor Davis Hanson, other people like that, they're trying to connect people to true history, what really happened, so that we can draw conclusions and go forward living our life better because we've learned the lessons of history. And it's very dangerous not to learn the lessons of history.
Right.
Well, now what Niall Ferguson is talking about in The Death of History is you have these bots, you have these social media people. They say wild things, crazy things, dangerous things, anti-Semitism, doubting the Holocaust, I mean, and on, right? Which would also include undermining American history, undermining claiming that Churchill was responsible for World War II, all sorts of things like that. Well, the more wild the more wild your statements, the more hits you get. And apparently these bots, these AI bots, multiply that many times. So people who are stuck on their phones, right, are constantly getting hit with undermining statements, false facts, kind of harem-scarum stuff. Just, in other words, it creates an atmosphere. I don't know what truth is. That's why I talk all the time, Perry, about gospel politics. What does Jesus say? I am the way, the truth, and the life. Okay? Truth, you can just say truth is a person. God, man, Jesus Christ. So the way, love your neighbor, love your enemy. What does love your enemy mean? People are sinners. It doesn't mean love a person who comes in to kill your children and rape your wife. I mean, that's not what it means. People are sinners. We're all sinners. Learning to rise above other people's sin, to love them despite the pain they may cause you in one degree or another. So the way, love your neighbor, love your enemy, maintain an attitude of hope. And the truth is a man, Jesus Christ. Look into it. Read the Bible. Find out what God said. A book, the word wonderful, the word miraculous is too little for God's holy word. The life. Live for what's right. Always understand you live under a higher authority. Seek what's right. And from a standpoint of life, get married. Find a good woman, find a good man, have lots of children, raise those children right, live that way. And we've got to start, as Christians, we've got to start promoting to the left, because the left is in such pain because they do not understand the way, the truth, and the life. And they're very often not married, unhappy. They throw their entire reality as politics, which is the DSA people. You listen to these people; they're broken people.
I want to come to that a little bit later, but let me ask you: do you think, given what you just said, do you think we're heading into a turning point? Are we heading into an awakening? Are we heading into a takeover?
Wow. I think we're in such pain now as a country that, to me, when, the old story, when you're down in the gutter and you've lost everything, it's when you face you're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
There's a point when you're so crushed that you say there's got to be a better way. And I think this country is in that state. I mean, my party is in complete disarray. They're going to have to make a stand against the DSA. DSA is, I want to say crazy, but they're not crazy. It is a spiritual craziness. You might say unsane. They're not insane, but they are unsane. When you think of their platform, and they just recently, as you know, Perry, I'm sure you've already talked about it, they just recently declared their platform on Fox News Sunday. They're on the record as saying abolish the Senate, et cetera, abolish borders.
We have that clip, and I'll tell the guys in the control room, get that clip ready. We have that clip. But what I think is more important about what they declared who they are, which is now no longer a conspiracy in the closet, they actually pointed it out and Fox News listed it. From doing away with the president, doing away with the Senate, all the way down. It's what the commentator said at the end. We'll get that for you in just a moment. But the point you're trying to make here is, are we in shock and awe? Or are we in determination we're not going to let this happen?
In terms of the DSA?
Well, just overall, the condition of the country.
Yeah, the condition of the country is, what's so, I told you I was down in Washington to spend the day there a couple of days before July 4th, just to soak up the fair and see the people and go around, visit the different states. This country is such an amazing country. When I am reminded of that when I come back here to Southern Oregon and spend my time with all the people I know and work with in Grants Pass. What a country we are, and what we represent to the world. When those, those fans of FIFA, and they're saying, "My gosh, these are people who live under the propaganda of the media in Europe, right?
Yeah,
the anti-American propaganda."
They came here and they were shocked.
And they see friendliness, they see industrious people. We are an amazing people, but we have to understand the essence of propaganda, particularly communist propaganda, socialist propaganda, for my entire lifetime and way beyond. It's not about, communist propaganda is not about trying to persuade you of some crazy economic system that has been proven over 100 years not to work. Communist propaganda, socialist propaganda, is about undermining our confidence, undermining our country, getting us to believe false things about the relationship between men and women, getting us to believe false things about what capitalism means, what the free market is, right? I mean, communism is capitalism, but the government controls the capital.
Yeah.
That's the... It's undermining who we are as America. So when you see a party, increasingly, tragically, my party, which, as I told you last week, was why I might become an independent, and then say, the fight now, the problem for me is the fight now.
You okay?
The fight
you okay?
now.
Do I have to get you counseling? Are you okay? Or you take a pill or something?
Well, I'm just trying to get Democrats to vote Republican so the Democratic Party will wake up. I voted Republican for 40 years. But the point is, now the fight is my party has to decide who it is. And they cannot really resist the DSA and all its mad communist stuff, right? Because it's straight up communism. They cannot resist that by being communism light. They have to come back to an under God America. They have to come back to claiming the Declaration of Independence. Progressives have always rejected the Declaration because this thing about under God America.
So what happens to your element of the party? I mean, where are they? Are they stuck? Are they leaving? Where are they?
You're talking about the leadership or the membership?
Well, the membership and the leadership is, they have no leadership.
No, the leadership is in disarray.
Right.
The membership, I believe, in the next election, we may be surprised. I think the membership will I mean, I hope
will vote.
I hope they'll vote Republican. I hope they'll understand that the way to save the Democratic Party is right now to reject the Democratic Party and the DSA, reject them, and force the leadership of my party to come back to America, come back to under God America. My party used to adhere to Christian principles.
Yeah.
Look, my party's always been very liberal. Even when I say I'm a JFK Democrat, I'm actually more conservative than John F. Kennedy. I wouldn't have ever wanted, federal unions. There are things that I'm against because I see that they're not good for the country. But the point is, when I was young, you could look at a Democrat and Republican and say, I generally am conservative, but that Republican candidate, I don't think he's qualified. I think this you could do that back then because the parties were
close.
I'm about to tell you a major propaganda if we have time. The parties were fairly close in what they believed. The Democrats were very anti-communist. I mean, the mainstream Democrats. The big propaganda of that age was both parties are the same.
Yeah.
So you don't have a choice. which is wrong because what you choose is character, person, the person who's running. You get to choose the person who's running. So their whole argument was the Democratic Party had to become more radical, more so that you had a choice. Well, excuse me, if my party's communist and the Republicans are pro-American, patriot, you know, free market, etc., I don't have a choice. I don't really have a choice. I have to vote Republican, and that's my heart prayer for Democrats, is they will not be blindly loyal to the blue.
All right.
Vote for America.
Let me take a break. We're going to come back. DSA stands for the Democratic Social America. They are no longer a conspiracy boogeyman in the closet.
They're winning elections in big cities.
Yeah. All right. We'll come back and we'll play a little clip for you because there's an angle to this clip. I don't know if you saw it. That to me is really telling. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Bob Justice with us, live in the studio. We don't have that very often, but he's out on the West Coast and back here for a little bit. We're talking about a variety of things. I want to come back to the DSA. It's just the Democratic Socialist America. Now, before people get upset thinking we're being too political here, I think you need to understand there's a real warning here that you need to understand what's going on because these people are gaining elections. They are winning elections. And you know why they're winning elections? It's pretty simple. Because Christians don't vote. Oh. And I think we need to understand the reason these people, they now are on a roll. They have social media normalizing craziness. Social media is normalizing crazy. You see so much of it, sooner or later you become immune to it, and all of a sudden it becomes normal, okay? This clip is amazing. It starts off with a DSA person talking about what they want and what they're going to do, and the host beginning to give a little bit of a rundown of that. Mm-hmm. And then it goes to another person who's a commentator explaining what just happened. And it's pretty shocking. Mm. Take a look.
The Senate is an anachronistic institution. It comes from the British House of Lords. It is made to protect power for, you know, the Senate was part of the system that was made to make sure that the people didn't have too much of a say. The open borders is part of a longer-term international plan that involves us stopping destabilizing countries. Most people who are coming to this country are coming as economic refugees, and we destabilized their country. We did that.
She's talking about not just getting rid of the Senate, but she was talking about, and the DSA in general is talking about replacing the presidency. They don't want to have a president. They don't want a Supreme Court. They want to abolish ICE. They want to defund the Pentagon. They want people to come into the country illegally, no borders, phase out prisons. I could go on and on. And I am worried about it in the long term, and here's why. I think back to 1993, in Bill Clinton's first term, when Hillary Clinton wanted to push aggressive health care reform. It was in the first year of his presidency, and there was a bad reaction to that. She had to back off of it. Second term, we all know that Clinton went more towards the center, tried to work on both sides of the aisles to get things done. He was doing that as he was moving into his election because he wanted to keep the White House. Having said that, it was only March of 2010 that the Affordable Health Care Act was brought into law, signed by the federal government, by by President Obama. So this is 17 years later, roughly, let's call it 20, where we went from we don't want this to we'll take some version of this. And that's what I worry about with some of these concepts. And I also watch an interview like that and I say to myself, why are these people coming on our air? Where they know they don't necessarily have their audience, their base to speak to. It's to make their ideas more mainstream. It's even if you watch that and you say she is out of her mind, which I'm sure many viewers did, the more you hear it, the more the repetition sets in. Yeah. Think 20 years down the line, think 25 years down the line. She doesn't have to do everything on her list. But if they could do one or two of those things, you really start to fundamentally chip away at the system. So that's how I kind of see this. I mean, the fact that we're having these conversations seems crazy, but they keep pushing that into your consciousness so that everybody hears it, not just their followers, to see what they can grab at eventually.
Yeah. That ought to make your blood run cold.
Yeah, and especially, you know, that the culture and the media are so influential in attempting to tell us what to think, that if they, it's going to be very important, I was going to say interesting, but this is not entertainment. I don't care about interesting. This is dangerous. It's stupid because it comes from a place of not even understanding what America is. And that's always been the problem. Our public schools, for the longest time now, have not taught civics, don't understand what America is. The very fact that the Democrats, the mainstream, you know, moderate, whatever, regular leadership Democrats are talking about packing the court, it just, and of course rejecting under God America, rejecting the Declaration of Independence. One prominent senator, I can't remember his name right now, but prominent, I think the Connecticut senator, no, it's actually the guy who had actually run for vice president at one point, actually said that anyone who thinks there's a higher authority than government is dangerous. He said something like that. Well, to say, and this is a prominent senator who was a vice presidential candidate, to say something like that means you do not understand America, okay? And if you do not understand America, that probably means you've not been taught what America is. So these people, if we don't start teaching America, teaching under God America in our public schools, then this will take over. What counters it, as I say, gospel politics, what counters it is for us to show forth the truth of America, not talking all the time about the sins or mistakes we made, but what is the truth of America. We need public schools that teach that. We can't have a country where people who want to learn what America is have to go to private Christian schools or independent schools. We need to be teaching that in our public schools.
Okay, we're not.
We're not.
Okay, so
and that's the battle.
So, all right, it is a battle, but the reality is, when you hear stuff like this, and I'm trying to figure out, just to keep it simple, if Christians who are eligible to vote register, number one, the reason they don't register is because they don't like any one of the parties. They don't like the Democrats, they don't like the Republicans, and they see all this fighting, they see this conversation, and they'd rather go have a root canal than register. So that's a problem. Even though you have the avenue of independent, they think, why bother? But if they would register, if they're eligible, and then convert that actually into a vote, the numbers prove, state by state, especially in the state of Oregon, we can sway any election. But when we have a 34% turnout in our own primary, it's disgusting. And when you hear stuff like this, which is to me a clarion call to wake up, because your religious freedoms are on the line. The ability for me and you and I to sit here on this television set and talk like this is on the line. I recently got elected to the board on the NRB after being a member there for almost 40 years. Well, I don't say that to brag. I say that because I wanted one reason. I wanted to be on one committee, and I got on the committee I wanted to be on, and that was the policy committee.
Oh, great.
And the policy committee has to deal with our right to talk the way we're talking this morning, because it is under attack. And if they can get this microphone, they can get your pastor's microphone. And most people don't understand that.
And we lose that, and we lose America. I mean, that's what it is. We descend into chaos. The reason I feel hopeful is that we've been down so long. There's only one way, and that either we just completely collapse or we go up. We have revival. And the reason I always use the term gospel politics is, in a sense, to remind everyone that in the end, the way, the truth, and the life is what the battle is over. And so if you can say gospel politics, you can say anti-gospel politics. and you start to understand that politics increasingly is spiritual warfare. What's manifesting, that young woman with that young woman with the red glasses, you know, the DSA person, I'm telling you, if you were to see into her life, you'd find, I'm speaking generally, not just about that particular woman, but generally,
chaos.
You see broken family, you see unmarried, you know, person, you know, you see a core of unhappiness, unfulfilledness, if I can use that word, in their personal life. And so they're putting all their hopes and dreams, their focus, their passion into false politics, anti-gospel politics. And they have a passion, a driving passion. Listen to what this woman said when she was talking on Fox News. We will, now again, this is a DSA co-chairman of the Democratic Socialist Party. We will win by making conditions so intolerable for the ruling class that they would rather give in to our demands than continue to live with the disturbance we cause until we are able to fully seize power ourselves. Now, when you say ruling class, I understand the way that term is used, but you see, we the people rule. We found that out in 2024. The American people, even in all the battleground states, voted Trump. The American people said, oh, no, you won't, to the era of Biden and COVID and all the madness that went on, operating on children and the whole thing that we all know. Right. The American people said, oh, no, you won't. That's called ruling. That's called ruling. We are the ruling class, in truth, in terms of the way...
We the people.
We the people are the ruling class. Thank you, Perry. Yeah. We the people are the ruling class. That's what they don't like. What they want is to be the ruling class. That's how communism works. You have an apparatchik, which is what it was called, the elite in Soviet Union. Remember, the Soviet Union was called USSR. USSR stands for Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Okay? We are talking people who want to tyrannize us for our own good.
Yeah.
In their minds, we're going to rescue. You're going to rescue from the superstition of Christianity, from the dominance of the church. You know what happens in communist revolutions, like in Spain, well, they start killing priests, they kill pastors, they kill. I mean, this is a communism, socialism by its nature, and you read what the DSA stands for. It's antichrist at essence. So we Christians, going to your point, Perry, we have to start thinking in terms of gospel politics. Why are we not inserting the way, the truth, and the life?
I think there's an answer to this, and it's an answer to a question we can't answer, and that is this: how do you really love your enemy when they hate you and they want you destroyed? How do you return God's love to that person? We have not figured out a way in our hearts and in our minds to do and to practice what we preach.
You know, I remember a wonderful woman in Grants Pass, Myrna Schoenfeld. We recently lost her. Very, very powerful, and her memorial's coming up soon. Very powerful pro-life person who I got to know for many years, close to.
Loved her.
And she would describe being on the front line of the abortion issue. I think it was Operation Rescue, I don't remember, but it was front line, where you're face to face with people who are, you know, to use a biblical quote, making mouths at you, as they did with Jesus. The hatred that you're talking about, the hatred, well, that kind of hate is spiritual attack. And the response to that, the proper response to that, is love, not responding to hate with returning hate.
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't vote. That doesn't mean you don't stand against them.
Yeah.
But you don't have to hate them.
Well, see, and that's my point. Can we stand in dignity and in decency? Because the world is teaching us to return hate with hate. That's not biblical. I remember Myrna Schoenfeld. She was a dear heart. I had her on the show many times.
I know you did.
And I remember when Operation Rescue was in the height of its influence, and she'd be down on the street and people would be in her face. And she was a strong Catholic woman, and she stood there and began to pray for them. even though they spat on her.
Yeah, she described it
But
to
her
me.
standing there was taking the position in what she believed.
Right. Right, absolutely, and she described the feeling that she had vividly. I remember vividly. I've had many conversations with her, as you know, Perry, like you, and she used to interview her and everything. She described it as demonic.
Yeah.
And so that kind of spiritual attack, you respond with proper spiritual, love. That's love your enemy. You don't hate. You don't return it with hate, but you stand. You stand.
Yeah, part of it is, in America, we're now dealing with the actual reality that we have to defend our faith, and we're not used to that. It started at the water cooler. Now it's in the streets. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. Bob Just in the house, talking about a variety of things. Bob does have a website, bobjust.com. That's a good place to go and connect with him. He's back on the West Coast for a little bit, working with his friends in Grants Pass, concerned families. We'll come to that. I hope people understand that I'm going to get heat for all of this because that's just what happens. But the point being is, I think there is a time for righteous anger and frustration. It's how you handle it. I get that. But I'm really tired of being told, shut up and sit down. Mm-hmm. And I remember the late Dr. Dobson. And I've had the opportunity to interview him on many occasions. And at one time, in fact, twice, I went to Colorado Springs for special meetings where he was involved. And we sat down. And this man had a passion for family life. Mm-hmm. And he was a frontline warrior, and a lot of people misunderstood him. But today, he's being proven that everything that he fought for on behalf of the family was the right stand to take. And primarily what happened is that every major concern of the family, from a biblical perspective, the left politicized it in an attempt to keep him and us out of it.
Right.
When we came to the issue of abortion, it became a political issue. And then what was the big thing about Christians being involved in the abortion fight? Separation of church and state. That whole issue popped up. What was that for? Push us out of the argument. Pastors stopped talking about it at the pulpit. Now we're dealing with the divorce rate in America, including Christians. It's been politicized. We don't talk about that. We're talking about gender confusion. It's clearly a biblical issue that's been politicized. We don't talk about that. Okay, and the list goes on and on and on. And you kind of go, okay, where's the breaking point here? Where's the breaking point here? I don't know. I mean, I'm just...
Well, the strategy, to put what you just said in another word, the word I use instead of politicizing is controversial, okay? They make everything controversial. That's a strategy. That's an actual strategy. So, I mean, I like rye bread. Huh? You like rye bread? Get a demonstration. We're going to have a demonstration out front for people who like rye. How dare you like rye? I take personal offense at that. The reaction, the hostility that they express to you is a strategy. Okay, the demonstrations are a strategy. What do you mean defund the? You think that what I just said about rye bread is absurd? What do you mean defund the police? Defund the police? Are you serious? Ban ICE. In other words, they promote strategies of chaos, and so the process is to back us off from standing for everything. If it's controversial, I won't touch it.
Right.
Well, I know the argument, and I have compassion for the argument that I don't want to turn someone off because I don't want to turn them away from the gospel. Yep. If I stand for the gospel, I don't want to turn them away from that. But here's my thought on that. People are lost. Many, a large percentage of the country don't know the Lord. They're lost. They're wandering. They're hungering for some way, some truth, some life. And we're the ones that have that. So if they see crazy things happening, like the gender thing and other things like defund the police, mm-hmm. and they don't see the churches saying, "What do you mean defund the police? What are you talking about?" That leads, if they don't see that, then they don't, in their eyes, we're not standing for truth because something absurd is going on and we're not saying anything about it. My church said nothing when Charlie Kirk was murdered, martyred, right? And I'm patient, I don't overreact. But the reason is they didn't know anything about Charlie Kirk. They only know the controversial, oh, yeah, he says this, he's a racist, he's that. In other words, that's scary. Wait a minute. I don't know. Can we stand with the? I have to look. Well, I think they've looked into it now and they regret that. But my point is, the left creates controversy. I accuse you of being a racist. Wait a minute. They're accusing Perry Atkinson of being a racist. Maybe I should stay away from Perry. It's a strategy, people. It is a strategy.
Well, the latest one is I'm a Zionist. Okay, and so therefore the word Zionist has been demonized, and so I'm that.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker Carlson actually said, I hate Christian Zionists. Now, when he was interviewing Huckabee, he said he regretted saying that.
Yeah.
But the problem is the quote is out there, right? Like, and I'm part Jewish, but I'm a Christian Zionist. I also had family, so I have a family connection, but I'm pro-Israel for the same reason you're pro-Israel. And if they can make that controversial, right, they can make anything controversial. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. It is a staunch ally. We have shared interests. And for us to start saying, oh, I'm going to turn my back on a staunch ally that is the only democracy in the Middle East, you're going to turn away from that to what? What are you going to turn toward? But they make everything controversial.
Let me give you the next controversy: Christian nationalism.
Oh yeah,
and
Christian nationalism.
Well, I've been hit with that numerous times.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I do? I ask them, tell me what you think it is, and they can't tell me.
Right.
So they've picked up the term because it's been used as a negative, as a kind of a chaotic thing to say, and it's a negative. Oh, you're one of those.
Right.
Trying to throw me into the category. And I said, just tell me what you think of Christian nationalists. And they can't give you the explanation.
Yeah, that again is a strategy that you take a term, the way the left does it, and again they control the culture, and they control the media, and they have the dominant media, but the culture is really what they control. So they can take a phrase and over time just go, Christian nationalists, oh, Christian nationalists. They don't have to talk about it. All they have to do is react that way. Christian nationalists, Christian nationalists. Well, people in New York City, I used the term and I said, well, wait a minute. I mean, I grew up, I believe God is a God of nations. I believe in the pilgrims. I believe in, the covenant, and I believe this country is blessed by God. We are an under God country. I believe in my country. I'm a patriot. I love my country. I'm a Christian. I love my God. I'm a Christian nationalist. I mean, what are you talking about? Of course, any Christian who is a patriot, and I hope all Christians are patriots, are Christian nationalists. But what they do is, it's not about arguing. It's not about proving their point, making a logical argument. No, it's about a kind of
identity.
Categorize. Yeah, it's about attacking a phrase to make it sound evil. Okay. And they are successful at doing that because they control the culture. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves defending ourselves on a very harmless term, Zionist, Christian nationalists.
Well, the other thing I think we need to realize, and I've said this, and it's, okay, I'm not trying to position myself, but it's something I've repeated, and it can be backed up. And that is, just about every major denomination in the last 4 to 5 years in the world has divided over LGBTQ. Right. Every one of them. As to whether or not, now they've changed the term from LGBTQ plus whatever acronym you want to put into, to SSA.
Oh, I didn't know that.
SSA is like DSA. DSA is Democratic Socialists of America. SSA is same-sex attraction. So the term is, they got rid of all these other things and they put SSA in there. Okay, that somehow we have to accept SSA people into the ministry, into leadership. Okay, so what are we going to do with this? I mean, at some point, you can't run and hide. But let me tell you why you can't run and hide. One reason. One reason. Your children.
Your children.
Your children will inherit what you didn't get involved in.
Yeah, they have to, we Americans, of all particular viewpoints on that and other subjects we're talking about, have to figure out how to come to, because the alternative is ugly, how to come to an understanding of how to live together. And one of the key understandings we have to come to, in my opinion, is not in front of the children, okay? The children are off base. Get it out of the public schools. You're going to do what you're going to do as an adult, but don't be telling my child that, and that, not just the issue you're talking about, don't be telling my child that abolishing the Senate, replacing the presidency and the Supreme Court, abolishing ICE, abolishing borders, give amnesty to anyone who's currently in, defund the Pentagon, abolish prisons, government ownership of most large corporations. That's the DSA platform. Don't be telling my children that that's sensible, okay? Because you're naming one issue that's, of course, crucial on the issue of marriage and what is marriage, and, you know, but, and that, I think that Supreme Court case may well be revisited. But the issue really is, how do we get along as free citizens of a great country? How do we get along? Because the alternative is ugly. How do we get along? How do we love our neighbor? How do we do this? Well, we don't allow someone to propagandize our children. The children are off base.
One quick thing, we have to take a break. One quick thing. I realize a lot of this is pretty emotional, but here's the deal. There is something happening that is the answer. There is what we can't give it any other term, but the term that seems to be out there to describe it is, there is a silent revival taking place. And a silent revival means it's not being led by any one person or any one denomination. It's led by a genuine hunger. Is there a God, and does he love me? And it is happening with young people. It's happening with young males. And so it's interesting that God doesn't need this conversation to save America. Okay? All he has to do is pour his Spirit out to hungry people.
Come, Lord Jesus.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Bob Justice in the house. I have to tell you, I think what we need to do, Bob, is, you know what today is?
What?
Today is chicken wings and lasagna day. Did you know that?
Both together?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's if you like chicken wings, today's your day. Okay.
So you're honoring chicken wings separately, and then lasagna separately. It's not, you don't have to bring them together.
But they're both comfort foods.
Yeah, they are.
In order to bring the temperature down, we need some chicken wings and some lasagna.
We need some comfort food.
Okay, and we can sit down and gnaw this out. But I think what we're trying to do here is express something to our hearts and to our minds, is that we're losing the thing that we love. And the question we have to ask ourselves, are we responsible for this loss? Because we want neutral. We want quiet. We don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to be conflicting to anybody. And what's at stake here is the next generation. I have George Barna on quite a bit. He's really, really a super guy. We talk off the phone. I mean, he's just a neat guy. And his heart breaks when his first research came out that less than 8% of Christians in America have a biblical worldview. So he went back and he did the study again, only to find out that it dropped to 4%. Okay? But then he begins to look at it, and he starts to peel the onion skin back. And there is a genuine hunger among young people who are waking up to the fact that they have been lied to. If the Bible is true, and their parents aren't old fogies, and Grandma really was the right person telling me Bible stories, and there's this return to faith. The question I have is, the modern church, the local church, willing to bring them in? They don't look like us. They don't smell like us. They don't act like us. They don't talk like us. But they're hungry. And are we ready for them? Okay? God is moving if we let him move.
I remember the feeling well. Now, I was lucky because I went to a Christian high school and a Christian college and sang in the choir, and so I had a lot of exposure. And even when I was very young and still secular Jewish with living with my mother, I had a good boys' choir voice, and I sang at the Church of the Heavenly Rest in the boys' choir.
You lost that.
What?
You lost the boys.
I lost the boy choir voice. So I was exposed. So and I was baptized and confirmed when I was 16. But I didn't understand Christianity. I lapsed from it in college during the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
But then, after a period of time, I started to put one and one together, and it came up two, and I realized, oh, the things I were taught when I was young are true. And I wonder if we can have that feeling nationally. Not everyone grew up, was exposed to Christianity in some depth, as I was in both high school and college. But as a nation, our history is Christianity. And it's full of, as you and I were talking about last time I was on the air with you, you go to Washington, D.C., Christianity is everywhere.
Well,
the Bible is everywhere.
During the 250th celebration of July 4th, just about every event had spiritual references, Christian references to it. So it's there. It's there. People say, what can I do? You can pray, obviously. But Grandma, go ahead and talk to your grandkids and love somebody. It's okay to talk about it at work.
Absolutely.
To your point, if you're going to go to the water cooler, I'll guarantee you the person you meet at the water cooler is broken inside, and they're looking for hope.
And
Do we have it in us to share that?
And I'll tell you, when the Bible makes reference to blindness and sight, darkness and light, but particularly blindness and sight, I remember when I was, we would say a baby Christian, but that there were things I couldn't see, and Christian friends of mine would say, "You see that?" And I'd go, I don't see that. I don't see it. There are so many people that are hungering for something that makes sense, something they can hold on to, right? But they don't see, okay? We are the people of sight, all right? We are not blind. And the joy of understanding life, understanding Christian worldview, biblical worldview, understanding that we are each individual's unique. Of course, that's what birthday is about. Unique individuals known by God with a purpose. If we can find it, if the scales can drop from our eyes and we can see, right? So we are the ones who see. We have to help those who can't see or are wandering around. One of the things I told you off the air, we were talking about it, one of the reasons I was invited to Spain to give the seminar on dating, courting, marrying, parenting, on gender identity. Last April I went. They saw the video I did at Edgewater Christian Fellowship in Grants Pass, and what they were drawn to was their big problem in Spain is postmodernism. Young people don't believe there's such a thing as truth. Mm-hmm. And my point in the seminar, which is linked on bobjust.com, is that God made man and God made woman, and these are two essential truths because together they create marriage, children, and future eternity. Everything, be fruitful, everything comes out of that. They are two essential truths. And if we can start to stand, and we, the church, capital C, if we can start to stand on that principle that there is such a thing as woman, and it's beautiful, powerful, anointed, designed, such a thing as man, and it's beautiful and powerful and designed, and how they come together to make marriage and bear children and raise children. These are truths that you can stand on. And the young people who are blind, they want to make a life. How do I do this thing? How do I make a life? I love that Charlie Kirk said, you know, get married young, find a good woman, you know, for a good man, get married young and have more children than you think you can afford. You know what? Glory be to God. Go ahead and do it. I know, I just met a young couple who had already have 5 children. He has a good job. She's homeschooling. They are a good family. They are making a way. And you know what? They're poor. They're struggling. They're actually on food stamps. But you know what? We all have to be poor to be rich again. We have to decide, what is it that really matters? Don't worry about the fancy this or the fancy that. Get married. Have children, raise them right. That's real gold. When I grew up, Perry, the phrase that children are a poor man's wealth, poor woman's wealth, because that couple is going to raise a beautiful family, even though they're on the edge. They're going to raise a beautiful family and have a glorious life in an old age.
Well, do you ever have a bad day?
Never when I'm on the air with you, Perry.
Oh, yeah. No, but seriously, you ever have a bad day? And you kind of wonder why is God allowing that?
And do I ever struggle? I
Yeah.
mean, life is full of struggle.
Okay, so
Full of disappointments and failures.
all you have to do is watch Johnny Erickson Tata.
Oh, right.
And all of a sudden everything takes on another perspective. She's prayed and fasted for healing. And God said no. And yet her life has produced more healing than any one person can possibly imagine. And when I'm having a bad day, I have to remind myself, I'm not paraplegic in a wheelchair with constant pain.
She is a marvel of God.
Yeah. We got to go. Check out bobjust.com. That's where you go. By the way, the seminar he gave over there at Edgewater, it's there on the website. He just gave you an hour eclipse of what is there a little bit. Good stuff. Check it out. Bob, good to see you. I don't know, maybe we can squeeze you in one more time before you catch the big silver bird back. But it's always good to have you. Thank you for your passion.
Thank you, Perry, for everything.
All right, we'll see you next time.